Hello everybody, Jason Meyer here with some morning jumpstart student feedback for you. I hope you guys are well. So last night we looked at some Hovsepp Pushman and we continued our talk from yesterday from the class and everything about the sphere, light, dark, background. Today we're going to look at, good morning Shakti. Today we're going to look at a young lady lit by sunlight. And then we're going to work with some of those same principles. And let's see what happens. Oh, Shakti and Susan. Man, you guys are asking for more. Good for you. Good for you. So, since my middle name is Unceremonious, what do you say we just head right to the iPad and get started, huh? So we'll do this. We'll do that. We'll do that. And we're ready to go. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do on here is I can tell that there's glare on the hair just above kind of the ponytail that's lit. If you see that, not down by her chest. As you move up to her shoulder, it seems really blue right there. That's just glare. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover that up with the value that they already have there. And then we're going to talk about the whole thing. But let's get that taken care of so that we can see this thing accurately. So what I'm going to do, and again, as I do this, it's a little bit quick, so it's not necessarily nice and refined. So I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, and you're welcome to tell me if you're here, that this was a little darker. I know it had some variations in it. And I got this just from the scalp, right? We want to think about dark as dark. And what I mean by that is, what if we define dark as simply the absence of light? Now, when you were back in school, did they take attendance? You were present or you were absent? Were you ever kind of absent? Well, I mean, mentally you might have been, but there's not a box for that, right? So you can't have more or less absence. So if there's no light, then shadow represents the absence of light. And so don't make a lot of variations in the shadows. That will make your paintings much, much stronger. Because what it does is it gives them fewer shapes to look at, right? And look as I do. So at first that looks kind of gross, but then as you tie it in, do you see how it holds? And even there's a lot of reflected light right here. If I'm going to put any of that, I'm just going to keep the slightest bit of hair light right there. Okay, that's one way to separate them from the background. But what you need to realize is that that's 3 value changes. Dark, and then you're going to do the hair light, and then another value change, right, for the background. So you're going bum, bum, bum. And there's nothing wrong with going but if that's where you want them to look. But is there any reason really for us to be up here in this part of the painting? I mean, it seems to me that the light is coming in from back here, right? We hit the arm and we're coming straight through there. And then we've got some more down here, it looks like, as well. Right? So I'm always thinking about where I'm going to go and what I'm about to do, if it contributes to the painting or if it takes away. Let's not take away our hair. So what would happen to that light that we just talked about on the hair if that was just shadow? Let's just take a look at that for a second. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the light to get stronger. Because the shadow is more singular. And then here too, I'll show you how I'm going to handle that hair in just a second. Right, as this turns around, I don't know that I put that white line down there. We may indicate it a little bit, but we want to be at, and it's not white. I realize that. Okay, and so that works. And then what if, I mean, this is digital. We can take this away. You can take my comments or not take my comments. What happens when we take the red and shadow out? We could almost, oops, how did that go back to that? How did that go back? So it's the same value. Can you see that really close value? It's just got a little more chroma in it. And so what that means is the shape would then hold together. And again, that light's either going to be lit or not lit. We don't want variations in shadow. If we have any of that, it may be a little reflected light. But the reflected light and the transparency light will always be warm. We don't want to be cool. We'll talk about that in a second. But all we're doing right now is I'm grouping my darks, grouping the darks that were already there. And to me, this is already getting stronger. And I wouldn't put any detail in this corner here. I mean, what's the purpose, really? Is it adding to the painting is another way you could think about that question. Without shadow, light has no substance. So if you have light, we've got to have shadow. Now I know I'm doing this really small because I want to see the big pieces. So it's kind of not fair with the glare, but I still think you can get the point. You know, is that a stronger visual image? Or there. See, I think when we take the shadow away, then what it does is it allows all of our attention, all of our awareness to go into the light. And it's just easier, less decisions for them to make. Okay, before I talk about the skin tone or any of that, let's talk about this background. Okay, so now I haven't touched the light in the face yet or the light in the skin tone. I want to come back to that. But what I want to do is I want to set everything up to receive that skin tone light and shadow. So let's test something here. If this is our background, and I put it there, it's the same value as our shadow just about. But you see what a stronger color than the shadow it is? The chroma being so strong. So what that's doing is that's robbing our attention from her. Right? This beautiful young girl. And we're just going to ignore her. We're going to look right past her, back into the background. Well, we can't have that. I mean, she'd be devastated if she knew that. That we just, let's skip right past her and go to that green. Now this, on the other hand, wow, look how even bright that is. Are you kidding me? Is that real? Oops, don't want to do that. Is that really that color? Wow, see, even that, which looked gray up there, is really quite colorful too. So, let's just go here, see where we're at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the value just a little bit. I'm going to drop the chroma quite a bit. And I'm going to just move it slightly to blue, take a little bit yellow out of it. Not too much, just a little. Okay, so I like that, except for the fact that it's light. No, that's right. It's lighter than the shadows. It's about the same as that pink right there. And we've got to be darker. Right? It's definitely lighter than those shadows. And is it darker than the light? Yeah, looks like it to me. All right, so let's see. So he got through the application process. He's applying to be background. So we ran his background checks and all of that. And let's see how it performs. Right, you see that coolness immediately releases your eye. And now if I've got a big flat thing, again, that's going to carry more weight. But the idea of all of this is to allow you to look at the young girl. I feel like that's too dark. Let's see. So you see what I'm doing is as I take the color from the background, whatever's left, i.e. that red and that shadow, gets stronger. Because the green's not taking the energy that it was before. Okay, so even though there's less information in the background, right, the light on her became much stronger. But we want to make sure that our light is light and our shadow is shadow. And our shadows need to be warm, and then any reflected light or transparency is going to be even warmer. So what would a good shadow look like? So we can take it down, especially if we keep it a bit more colorful. And let's see. I feel like we could use a little more color than that. Okay, that feels a little better to me. Let's see, it's kind of hard to tell till we get it on there. Okay, and when you start, okay, let's see. So let's see if we just call all of that skin shadow. There we go. Okay, and then let's see, there'll be a little rim light here, just like on the arm. So like I said, as that turns, very good. And it'll turn here before it hits the nose. The absence of light. Can you be more or less absent? Okay, now we can't get away with just a brown mark on our face like that. But I kind of wanted to show you now, look how cleanly we see that light. So what I like to talk about is there's three guiding principles that are always guiding me. The first is visibility, right? And it's as simple as it sounds. These are the visual arts. People will engage with your painting visually, or they should. They shouldn't be tactilely touching it or licking it or trying to hear it or, taste it or smell it. It's a visual thing. Okay, so how does it look? Right? What makes it visible? Values are what bring the visibility to it and control the visibility of a painting. Right? So we want to first off make sure our values are set. And then the second thing we want to make sure of is that it's visible, but not only that, when we buy our canvas, it's two-dimensional. And as artists, we are creators, right? So I have to take that two-dimensional and add something to it, add some value to it. Part of that value is taking it from 2 dimensions, flat, into 3 dimensions. Okay, so visibility, dimensionality, what I call form, near to far, anyway, 3 dimensions, not flat. And then the third principle that guides me is movement. Why? Well, the best paintings are always the ones that have a sense of life in that. So then we ask ourselves, well, what is life? What is life, and how could you possibly get it into a painting? All life is movement. All life is movement. What is the slow movement of the plants? Sometimes slow, sometimes fast. Right? But as the movement stops, the life stops. So our third principle is movement. And we have movement by giving the viewer a way to get in and out of things. Soft and open edges. Right? Usually when people think and start thinking about painting something, they're not engaging visually with it. But they look with their eyes and immediately they go, how does the outline of this feel? People don't use these to look at your painting. They use these. So I'm not really concerned with how this would feel as much as I'm concerned with how it looks. And since we always want beautiful, visible, 3-dimensional, moving shapes, we soon learn that if we lock everything up and just put objects by themselves and the objects just have their own shapes, we don't come up with very interesting shapes. Right? What's the big deal with, well, shapes are what they're actually seeing. We've got to give them something interesting, right? Something that changes so they have an experience. So we want to clearly be able to see these shapes. And we've got that at this point. Now the idea, are these shapes orchestrated so that we lead them through the canvas? Again, I said through. I did not say across. I did not say up and down. Those are 2-dimensional. I'm talking 3-dimensionally. Into, out of the canvas has got to be balanced. From left to right needs to be balanced. And from top to bottom needs to be balanced. Okay? Yeah, and I know I'm asking a lot. But if I was asking you to do what you could already do, why would you be taking lessons? Right? I mean, this isn't a job site. We're not giving you work here. But we're trying to learn how we can take our paintings up. Okay, so let's tend to that red dress, shall we? How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. So 10 more minutes. What can a talking introvert do in 10 minutes? Let's find out. So what I like about this um, that even though it's red, if it's going to be lit, it's got to have some amount of white in it. And that'll make that look lit up. Right, and that's light down there. And again, I'm just kind of correcting values at this point. So a little bit richer. Then we might come to, it's a little bit early, but let's go ahead and do it since I don't have it covered. The reflected light. So as we look right here, this is facing up, and then as we face down, what happens is as the light hits whatever it's hitting, it then bounces back up to those planes facing down. And when light does that, what it's going to be is it's still going to be darker than the shadow, than the light. It will be slightly lighter and warmer. Now we're not going to add white to this. It's going to be more color. Right, so warmth like that. Okay, and that's not a lot, is it? So if we took that from red to more of an orange, it's a good idea, just not strong enough, I don't think. How about now? Bottom side of the nose. Okay, so maybe something like that. That reflected light here on the arm. Okay, and now, so now we're at the light. So skin tones, most people struggle with that. Let's see, is that too colorful there? Is that too colorful? I don't know. Let's try it out and see. You see, by making those other values a bit darker, a little bit darker, then we have room to bring our light down just a little bit, and so it's a richer feeling. Right? And then from here we get to that golden hair. So maybe our golden hair is what we're gonna write fairy tales about. So if we made that a little bit more, that looks a little too sunshiny. Not quite that. It just didn't look natural. So that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. Take that down just a little bit. All right, now we're getting more in there. I feel like that's a little closer to where we want to be. Okay, so again, these are the big gross pieces. When I say gross, I just mean not subtle. Right, so we're not looking for refinement at this point, but we're making sure that we have the impact that we need. See, and that yellow to me just doesn't quite look lit up now. Everything is looking lit up, and it just seems more of a color. It does kind of seem lit up. Kinda. You know, kinda just doesn't really do it for me. Some people are okay with kinda. You know what? We've marched this far. Let's not kinda do it. Let's do it. And we might have that build. I don't know. Okay, guys. So we're coming up on What are we coming up on? 25 minutes. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to be wrapping up. If anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to put those in the chat and do that now because it'll take a minute for it to get to me. And if not, I'd like to remind you about all of our shows in December, going live 3 times a day, 8 a.m. in the mornings for student feedback for a morning jump start. At 1:30 in the afternoons, we're back in my studio and working on my projects, and I'm talking about how I handle these problems in the studio, right? Trying to be fast, efficient, but more important than that, working from a place of understanding, right? Knowing where I want to go before I start. And if I don't know that, then what I do is a bunch of studies, right? I'm doing studies until I can see the finish in my mind. When I see the finish in my mind, then I'm ready to begin my painting, right? So we begin with the finish in mind, then we start the finish and finish the start, as David says. As simple as that. Okay? Jason, I can hear you guys yelling. Gosh, don't just keep your voices down. It's still early. You didn't get the highlight. Okay, the highlight. My goodness, you guys are excitable this morning. I guess I was a little excitable yesterday, so you guys go ahead. Go ahead, have a little excitement. And so what would the highlight on the hair be? Right, if you've got a little highlight, and again, these are rough. There's a little highlight on the nose or something. Highlight on the temple for coming down. Okay, and then the arms, the light's coming this way. Probably have a little highlight right there. At the shoulder, a little highlight. Boom, boom. What about our red? Well, if our red's a little close to the bottom, but if we wanted to give it more form, the first thing I would start with is the highlight. Man, is it gonna let me do that highlight? Oh, you know how I can do it? Is I can switch from red to like a blue, and then take the chroma way down. And then what wasn't going to be much of a jump before? Look, that's almost too much of a jump. Something like that. And edges matter. Edges matter. Okay, so we got a question. Susan's eating this stuff up. Man, Susan is getting a free education, and I'm so glad. That's why I'm here. Your work is just growing by leaps and bounds. Keep it up, Susan. Keep painting. And Shakti asked, I'm having a hard time seeing the eye path. Will you explain it? Yeah, so this one is might take a little bit of a redesign on that for an eye path. So mainly what I was working with is seeing the pieces and readjusting the big pieces. But basically, we've got the light coming in here and just spilling down like that, right? And if we had a little hair or something leaning this way, we could come right down there. To make that more impactful, what I might do is start graying some of this off and softening all the edges right there. So that, because this is so many changes and everything, and we don't want them going this way, right? If we're coming in this way, then a little something here is a nice pause to make them pause for a second, but we don't want to reroute them that way. So what if, oh, that's not working because I'm in the wrong layer. So you see how I just soften that edge down there? And then I can do that with everything. And it's, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. That was just bothering me. Oops. Took all the highlights off too. I was trying to get those little marks underneath. That white on the, well, I could tell you or I could just fix it. Just fix it. Just fix it. I gotta get a layer above that in order to cover it. There we go. There we go. So there's no distraction there in the shadow. Okay, I hope that helps out Shakti. Yeah, with the student work, again, I'm not always going it to the nth degree, but what I'm trying to do with whoever it is, okay, what's the next thing I could show them that they could take and use, right? And they may have to play with it a little bit. It's not like they can just pick it up and put it in the pocket. But whoever it is, it's just what's the next step, right? Because what good does it tell you how to finish a painting if you've got no idea about all that middle path in between? Okay, so I hope that helps. 8:31, it looks like I'm a minute over my time. So like always, I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I will be back today at 1:30 and tonight at 8 o'clock right here on YouTube. Please make sure to hit that little red button, subscribe. If you liked what we have, please share us, let your friends know about us. We do appreciate it. Okay, let's see. What do I want to press? I want to press that button. I want to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much for being here and have a wonderful morning.